Okay, so looking at your first one, you've got a graph, you've got to write in vertex form, intercept form, standard form, you've got to write the solutions, you've got to write the axis of symmetry. Some of these are easier than others. The axis of symmetry is going to be x equals -2. Your solutions, you've got one right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -6. And your other one's going to be 2. Vertex form, I've got a vertex at 1, 2, 3, 4, -2, 5. So y equals a, x, -2 would be +2, insiders lie, +5. Given that information, we're going to have to find a. We could use either one of our solutions. I'm going to go with this one right here, this 2, 0, which means I'm going to plug that in for x and y. Of course, you could also try to figure it out by doing the counting thing, but that would be a way you could go if you'd like. So now I'm just looking to solve for a. My first step would be to subtract the 5 from both sides. This right here is going to be 2 plus 2, which is 4. 4 squared is going to be 16, so I got 16a. Divide both sides by 16, and I got -5 over 16. So our vertex form is going to look like y equals -5, 16, x plus 2 squared plus 5. So then we have to take that, we can write it in intercept form. Intercept form is going to have the same a value, but then you're just talking about, okay, we've got x equals -6 and 2. So put that on the inside, insiders lie, so it's x plus 6, x minus 2. So this would be our intercept form that we would write right here, y equals -5/16 x plus 6, x minus 2. The last thing you want to do is put it in standard form. So we're going to take one of these two and just simplify them out. So taking just this intercept form that I just did, I'm going to multiply out those two factors. I'll get x squared, then I get -2x, positive 6x, and -12. Next step would be to simplify our x's. So I got x squared. This is going to combine to be 4x minus 12. Last step would be to distribute our -5/16 x squared. When I multiply -5/16 by 4, I'm going to, my 4 and 16, I'll do this off at the side here a little bit. -5/16. Once again, this is something you can do in your calculator. 4 will go into 16 4 times. So I've got -5/4 x. And then the last thing I have is -5/16 times -12. Multiply that. Well, this will reduce, let's see, 4 will go into this 3 times. 4 will go into this 4 times. So then I got -5 times -3, which gives me 15. 4 times 1, so 15 fourths, okay? And that would be just a really ugly. And if you look, remember, this is your y-intercept, right? So take a look at what we have going on right here. It's just above being 4. So, and that would be your standard form that you could plug in, okay? It says, change the following equations into factored form and identify the roots. So let's go back to a full screen here. I don't need all that side space. Looking at the first one, this is a difference of squares. I don't know if you remember that or not, but it's y equals parentheses. One's going to be a plus, one's going to be a minus. I take the square root of the first and it goes in the front. I take the square root of the back and it goes in the back. So those would be your factors. If you wanted to identify the roots, then you're going to have to take each one and set it equal to 0. So I got x equals -5 and I've got x equals 5. So you could also write that x equals plus or minus 5. Next one, if I'm going to factor this one, I'm going to have to do that method like this. I got -1, 2, and -28. Let's see, I got 16, carry 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 56. And it's going to be negative, so I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to give me 56 and combine to give me 1. Isn't that like 8 and 7? So -8 times 7 is -56. -8 plus 7 is -1. So then y equals 2x squared minus 8x, don't forget your x, plus 7x minus 28. We're going to group these. The first two have a 2x in common. So we're going to do 2x, and then we're left with x minus 4. The last two have a 7 in common. So I'm going to do x, whoops, that's a positive 7, x, and then I got minus 4. So you'll notice those two are the same, so I got x minus 4, and then I got 2x plus 7. Now once again, those are just the factors, so then if I want to identify the roots, I'm going to have to set them each equal to 0. Well, x minus 4 equals 0 is the easy one. Just add the 4, you end up with x equals 4. This one I'm going to subtract the 7, and then I'm going to divide by 2, giving me negative 7 halves. So that's what your solutions would be. Keeping in mind, those could be written just like points too. So 4, 0, negative 7 halves, 0. Last one would be 6 times 5 is 30, and then we got negative 13 on top. How about 10 and 3, and they both got to be negative. So I got 6x squared minus 10x minus 3x plus 5. You're going to need to group them. So the first two have a 2x in common, which will leave me with 3x minus 5. And then this one has a negative 1, which will get me to 3x minus 5. So I got 2x minus 1 and 3x minus 5. Those are the factors. So factored form would be y equals. If I want to find the zeros, I got to set them both equal to 0. And this right here, I'm going to add the 1, divide by 2. This one, I'm going to add the 5 and divide by 3. So those would be your two solutions for that one. Looking at my next scenario, it says change the following equations into vertex form by completing the square and identify the vertex. Okay, so if I'm going to complete the square, my first step would be y minus 3 plus some blank equals x squared plus 10x plus some blank. In my blank, I'm going to do my b value over 2 squared. What I add to one side, I have to add to the other side. Keeping in mind, this could end up looking like what? This is 10 divided by 2, which is 5. 5 squared is 25. 25 minus 3 plus 22. This one you could see simplified. There's no reason to do it. But you could see it ended up looking something like this because that's all that's happened. 10 divided by 2 squared is 25. But that doesn't really interest me. We went straight to, well, let's go ahead and put it in its factored form. So I would have plus 5 squared. And then the last step I would do would be subtract 22 from both sides. Okay? Then we have the next scenario, once again, would be completing the square again. So y minus 83 plus blank equals x squared minus 24x plus negative 24 divided by 2 squared. What you add to one side, you got to add to the other side. So let's see, I got y minus 83. Negative 24 divided by 2 is 12. Negative 12 squared is positive 144. On this side, I get x minus 12 squared. 144 minus 83 would be 61. Doing this off the top of my head here, so you can check my math. And then I'd subtract 61 from both sides, giving me x minus 12 squared minus 61. Oh, we were supposed to identify the vertex. Let's go back over here. The vertex for the first one is negative 5, negative 22. Remember, don't forget insider's lie. The vertex for this one is 12, negative 61. And then we got our last one over here to do. I would have y equal, sorry, my bad. Well, I'm going to need a little space anyway. So I got y minus 20 plus blank equals, remember this is the one where we got to factor out that 2, so I'm going to have minus 4x. Plus, I'm going to do a negative 4 over 2 squared, okay? It's kind of difficult to read that. So then over here I got y minus 20. Don't forget that 2 is going to multiply all that stuff, so I got 2 negative 4 over 2 squared. That's just what I've got over here in this parentheses that you can barely read. This would be 2 negative 4 divided by 2, so x minus 2 squared. And this left side would simplify. I got negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. I'm kind of doing this left side a little slower than the right side here. And so then I got y minus 12 equals 2x minus 2 squared. And then I got y equals 2x minus 2 squared plus 12. So the vertex should be 2, 12. I'm going to check my math real quick. Okay, so I think we're good with that. And please keep in mind that a lot of this completing the square stuff, you might be able to just use your calculator in graphing mode to find a lot of those type of answers. Let's see what we got down here. Change each equation below to standard form. In other words, all you're going to do is simplify it. So let's see, I got 3 halves. This would be x squared. 4x, x, and 4, giving me 3 halves. X squared plus 5x, right? This right here is 5x plus 4. And then I just need to distribute this 3 halves to everything. So that's 3 halves x squared plus 15 halves x plus, 2 will go into 4 2 times, plus 6. So that would be that one. If you're doing vertex form, that means y equals negative 4 x plus 5 times x plus 5, since it's being squared, right? So my first step would be to multiply this stuff out, giving me x squared, 5x, and 5x is going to be 10x, and then the last one would be plus 25, and outside of that is plus 8. Remember, you got to distribute this negative 4 first, so I got negative 4x squared, negative 40x, and then negative 4 times 25 is going to be negative 100 plus 8. So then I end up with y equals negative 4x squared minus 40x minus 92. The last scenario, once again, I just FOILed, so this one's pretty straightforward. 7 times 3x is 21x squared. Don't forget your x squareds. Plus 14x minus 3x minus 2, and be real careful with those signs. So I got 21x squared plus 11x minus 2. Those would all be in standard form. And keeping in mind, in standard form, here's your y-intercept, whatever that constant is. So my y-intercept here would be negative 92. Y-intercept here would be negative 2. Okay? In standard form, that last number is always going to be your constant. 36, for each graph, name what type of roots it has and describe the discriminant. So we're either going to say d is less than, greater than, or equal to. When d is greater than 0, you will have 2 roots. So this is an example where t is greater than 0 and you have 2 real roots. Okay? And this is using the discriminant, right? The discriminant is that thing that's b squared minus 4ac. It was just this part right here in the quadratic formula. So then b is where d is less than 0. You will have no real roots. And that would be that scenario when we had the square root of something negative. And our calculator told us non-real solutions. And then if the vertex actually sits on the x-axis, that's where d equals 0, and you would have 1 real root. Okay? For each quadratic, where do we go? For each quadratic, find the value of the discriminant and describe the nature of the roots. So be careful with this because these got to be in order. I need that 10 to be over here first. Now I'm ready to do it. So I do b squared minus 4ac. So I got 144. This is going to be 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 10 is 80, and it'll be positive. So this would end up being what? Did I do that right? 4 times 2 is 8. 8, yeah. Okay, so I got 4. I got 12. I got 2 24s, my discriminant, which is greater than 0. So I got 2 real roots. In other words, your graph across the x-axis twice. Here I've got b squared minus 4ac. Okay, so this will be 16 minus, this is bigger than 16, so I can tell you this is going to be no real solutions. And I don't really feel like doing 4 times 29, so I'm done with that one. I got it once again. I got to get these to where they're in the right order. So I got to move that 35 over. So this would be negative 35 squared minus 4ac, right? Negative 35 squared, that's a really good question. Okay, so 35 squared is 1225, and then I got negative 4 times negative 9 is 144, which obviously is going to be greater than 0 as well, so it's going to be 2 real solutions. Let's see, select one of the above that has real solutions and use the quadratic formula. So I vote we use A since it has smaller numbers. So once again, I'm going to use this right here. I do negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, which means I got negative 12 plus or minus 12. We already did the discriminant. The discriminant is 224, and it's all over 4. So then you're looking at simplifying. So I got negative 12 plus or minus. Well, 224 is 16 times 14. And then I got what? Negative 12. The square root of 16 is 4. And then 14 would be 7 times 2. So I can't pull anything out of there. And then I got a 4. Keep in mind, you're also looking, can these simplify? And that it has to be able to simplify with both, and it can. 4 will go into 12, with leaving a negative 3. 4 will go into 4, 1. So I'm left with negative 3 plus or minus 14. Square root of 700, well, that's the same thing as square root of 7 times 100. The square root of 100 is 10, square root of 7. 180, let's see, that would be what? Isn't that 18 times 10? So then let's see, I got 4. This would be 9 times 2 times 2 times 5. So I've got these would come out. So I got 4 times 2 because that would come out. Square root of 9 is 3, and then I'm left inside with a 5. So 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24, square root of 5. Once again, multiple choice type scenario. You can probably use your calculator for this. 243 is 243 divisible by, oh, there you go. 243, oh, I don't want that. 243 you can get by multiplying 3 and 81. The square root of 81 is 9. So then I get 18 square root of 3. Let's see. If you were standing on a 300-foot tall cliff and drop a stone, the height of the dropped object over time can be represented by the function blah, blah, blah. How long will it take for the stone to hit the ground? Okay, so this is calculator driven. It will hit the ground when this right here equals 0. So in other words, I would have 0 equals negative 16x squared plus 300. Okay? On your calculator, all you're interested in doing is looking for that right there. You'll look for that 0. If I were to do this algebraically, it would be negative 300 equals negative 16x squared. I divide both sides by 16, negative 16, equals x squared. Let's see, 300 divided by 16 would reduce to 75 over 4. Once again, we can do that square root thing, right? Whenever we square root, we do the plus or minus. 75 over 4 gives me x. Well, when I do that, I get plus or minus square root of 75 over 2. So then it's just a matter of what type of answer you've got. 75, this will of course simplify as well, but you have to decide what type of answer you're looking at. So I would get plus or minus, this would end up being 5 square root of 3 over 2. So if you had decimal answers, then that would be what you're looking for. But please keep in mind, you don't even have to do all that math. More than likely, this is going to be a graphing type problem that you would check. During what interval of time is the stone between a height of 100 and 200 feet above the ground? Well, we know that this height right here is 300. So what you're interested in doing is you're interested in graphing a line, y equals 200, and y equals 100. And then you just want to find the intersection there and the intersection there, and it'll be from this x value to this x value. That would be what your time is going to be, okay? And once again, that's all calculator driven. Oh, I got my calculator right here. Why don't we just, I'll show you. So, let's see. We've got tab, try my tab. I want to get rid of this graph. Oh, that's fine. So we've got negative 16x squared plus 300. Okay, so now I want to get this to where I can get up and see the top. So I changed that to 300. Okay, so what I was talking about is that y200, I'm going to go to tab, and I'm going to go ahead and graph 200. You'll notice it's going to draw a horizontal line, then I'm going to graph the 100. That one I can't see, and it's because of how far down this goes, so I'm going to change that to negative 10. Now, you can see what I'm interested in is where this red line crosses the blue on the right side, and then where the black line crosses the blue on the right side. So I'll do menu, analyze graph, and I want to find the intersection of this graph and then of this graph, since I graphed so many. So there, I want to get to the left of it, then I want to get to the right of it. So that one's going to be from 2.5 less than or equal to x less than or equal to, and then I got to go back and get the other one. Graph. So then I'm interested in the blue and the red, so I'm going to do menu, analyze graph, intersection. Once again, it's asking me which graphs. I want the blue graph, and I want this black graph. So I get to the lower part of it, and then I'm going to slide over here to the other side, and it says from 3.54. So between 2.5, is this in seconds? Dropped over knowledge time, stone between, okay, I don't know time, I don't know units, but it's from 2.5 to 3.54. Okay, so let's see what else we got. Solve algebraically using any method, okay, so subtract 12. So I got 3x plus 5 squared equals negative 12, divided by 3, x plus 5 squared equals negative 4. Square rooted, x plus 5 equals plus or minus the square root of negative 4. I want you to stop right there. Remember, if that's a negative on the inside, this is no real solutions. Okay? Next one. This one we're going to have to factor. Since they both have that x, I want to factor out the x, giving me 2x minus 7 equals 0. Take both those, set them equal to 0. There's one of my answers. The other one's 2x minus 7 equals 0. So I'm going to add the 7, divide by 2. Whenever you have two terms and they both have something in common, you can factor it out. This is that difference of squares scenario. So x plus minus 9, 9. So I got x plus 9 equals 0, x minus 9 equals 0, x equals negative 9, x equals positive 9. You could write this x as plus or minus 9. Next one, we're going to have to get them on the same side first. So I got 18x squared minus 6x equals 0. Once again, these both have an x in common, so I can factor out the x, giving me 18x squared minus 6 equals 0. So x equals 0 and 18x squared minus 6 equals 0. Well, that's an answer. There's no more work. I'm going to add 6, and then I'm going to divide by 18. So 6 will go into 18 3 times. So you got x equals 1/3. Once again, that's something you can do on the calculator. Now keep in mind, this is a multiple choice test. So if this is asking you to do this on the calculator, let's do the next one. I don't know if the next one's going to, well, we'll do the next one on the calculator, that's fine. So if it's asking you to do it on the calculator, we can take this next one, and if it's all it's asking for is solutions, then we can just type in the graph. So it'd be 8x squared plus 6x plus 5, and push enter. If it's asking me to solve it, it's asking where it crosses the x-axis, so this is a scenario where there's no real solution. Okay? The next one would be 2x squared, so tab, I'm going to go up here and take that one away and just type in the next one, 2x squared minus x minus 6. That's in my graph. It's got two solutions. So to find them, we do menu, analyze graph. We're going to do 0. You want the lower bound, which means you just want it to the left of it. Then you want to slide it to the, You want to slide it to the right. As soon as it passes it up, it's going to give you an answer. So negative 1.5 is one of those solutions. Then the other one, there it is. Menu, analyze graph, 0. And you got to find these individually, so it gets left, gets to the right, and then it told me the other one's at 2, 0. So let's see how this works out algebraically then. If I were to do this, I could factor it. I do negative 12, I do negative 1. I'm looking for two numbers for the top and bottom. How about 4 and 3, where 4 has to be negative? So now factoring by grouping, 2x squared minus 4x plus 3x minus 6. Do your groups. My first two have 2x in common, which is going to give me x minus 2. My last two have 3 in common, giving me x minus 2. So then if I continue on, I get 2x plus 3 and x minus 2. Set them both equal to 0. This will be x equals 2, which is one of our answers. This one will be subtract the 3. Divide by 2, which is our other answer. Okay. A gunshot, this also is going to be a calculator one. A gunshot from naval ship shot into the air, the initial upward velocity. So let's see, I'm going to slide this over here so I can pull up our calculator, and we'll do it that way. So I'm going to hit home OneNote just to clear everything out. And I'm just going to type in what they gave me, negative 4.9 x squared plus 150x. Now when you do this, double check, make sure you type it in right, because that's always helpful. Okay, so this is my graph. I'm going to do menu, window, and I want to do fit and see if I can get a better look at this. Okay, so now I can see what is the max height of this. Well, as you'll notice, I can't even see the max height, so I'm going to double click on my 10. I'm going to turn that into a 30. Now I can see most of my graph. To find the maximum, we hit menu, analyze graph, and we do maximum. Get to the left of it, then get to the right of it, and you've got 15.3 with a really ugly number there, don't you? You're not going to get anything like that, so we'll just let that one go for now. When will it hit the water? You're talking about this value over here, so to find that, I need to put 50 in. Now I can say menu, analyze graph, 0. I'm going to get to the left of it, get to the right of it, and it tells me at 31.1. So that's when it's going to hit the water. This is in seconds. And then we have, when will the projectile be at least 80 meters above the water? This is that opportunity when you do tab and you put 80 in. And so you're looking for the intersection. So it's going to be above this entire time. So I do menu, analyze graph, and I want to find the intersection. I'm going to get to the left and then to the right. And so I got 0.33 for 1. Analyze graph, and I've got intersection. I'm going to get to the left, I'm going to get to the right. And then I got 30.6. So that means from 0.033 less than x less than 30.6. Keep in mind these are just less than because it says when will the be at least, oh no. So it could be included, so therefore it could be equal to. Okay? And once again, these are just calculator type things you're working on. Is that the end of my, did I do it all? Oh, if so, I'll be so excited. Okay, I think so. If you have any questions, let me know.